Hello and welcome to the Dark and Roast. I wanted to talk today about converting to Catholicism and being African American because that is a touchy subject, and I don't think that people quite understand sacrifices that you have to make in order to become an African American in a religion that didn't really support African Americans back in the day. I have 4 things that I want to touch bases on today, and that is one of them is the history, the politics, the priest, and the people. So let's talk about some of the history. So some of the history I know that needs to be discussed is African Americans were not allowed into the religion, and they were not considered people back in the day. Let's say during the slavery era, African Americans, what I should say, were not considered people, and so that is against what the religion teaches now, and I think that they just brush over those issues and sweep it up under the rug like it never really happened, and it did. And I think if you're converting into this religion, and this is my own personal opinion, is that you have to be okay with that history, and it's a dark history, and there's a lot of corruption, and it was all around money and economics. It was, people were not considered people back in the day, that they were considered as like a workforce, like a piece of equipment, and so they don't teach that now, and so you have to be okay with that when you convert into this religion, that yeah, there is corruption, and there still is corruption to this day. I went on a plantation tour on the Whitney plantation in Louisiana and explained the Industrial Revolution and the war and how it happened, and slavery, and how African Americans actually got into the religion. Louisiana is one of the biggest states that has the most African Americans, Catholics, and a lot of them don't even know how they even got there, and it was because their slave owners had to vouch for them to actually become part of their religion, but they can only do it as, you know, their master had to sign for them. So it was very enlightening and yet very sad and very informational at the same time. I recommend anybody to go and do it and get a chance to look at the economics, and because it was focused mainly on economics and how religion played a factor in that. That was a really awesome tour, and I recommend that for everybody. So the politics in the church is something that I still haven't been able to get over. I have come into situations where basically, how should I say it? I should say, okay, so if you tithe more, you get more service in the religion, as far as what I have seen and what I have noticed. And because people tithe more, they actually think that they own more, they're entitled to more, and it's really political on in this atmosphere. So they have certain churches that serve certain people, like they have Hispanic churches. You know, they speak Spanish. They mainly have Hispanic priests. And then where I'm at, we have a Portuguese church, and there's an English mass in the Portuguese church, even though the priest speaks Spanish, will not hold a Spanish mass, because as the exact words were, that's what the other church is for. And then when I kind of heard that, I was like, okay, so this is definitely political. You know, they choose what they will and will not do, who they will and will not service, and based off of how much money you spend is based off of how much attention you get. So it's really political, and I don't really necessarily like that. I think that people should be going to church to go to church, to, you know, have peace with the Lord, or whatever it is that you decide you're going to do. So that's something you have to get around. The other thing is the actual priests. So a lot of the priests that I've run into are corrupted themselves. I'm just going to be honest in that way. They are human and they do make mistakes, but I meant blatantly. I've had priests lie to my face and turn around and make things up that never really happened, and I'm just like, that's not how things should be going here. Like, things should not happen that way. Like, take for instance, I was married prior to converting to Catholic, because that's my husband's job, was to, they say your husband's job is to bring you to the religion. So I come to the religion, I convert, and there's a certain order that my priest wants us to do it in. So he's like, okay, you need to convert, you need to baptize the children, and then you get married within the church. And then your husband can take Holy Communion. But in the meantime, he's excommunicated. One, he cannot excommunicate anybody because he doesn't have the power to do so. So he lied about that. And two, he lied about the order that I have to do it in, because I can actually baptize my kids and get married all on the same day. I don't have to do it in that order. That's just the order that he chose, and he told me that's how I have to do it. So, and he also said that I had to do these certain orders with my son in the CCD courses too. And so the CCD course lady would call me and said, oh, I talked to the father and he said X, Y, or Z. And I was like, I've never talked to the father and ever about anything with the CCD courses besides when he started the process, and I never talked to him again. So I don't know what he's saying or what he's thinking. These conversations never happened. She was like, oh, well, I kind of know him a lot, so he wouldn't lie about that. And I'm like, dude, he's lying. So you do have priests that lie and say things for no reason whatsoever. It's like the pettiest lies. So, and then you also have the corrupt ones too. When I was trying to convert, I didn't know necessarily the process, or I was like, hey, I would like to get my kids baptized or whatever, and I would go to priests and they'd be like, oh, $50. So all you want is my money. You don't ask me if I'm a Catholic, the process, no nothing. You just want my money. So you're gonna have to you're gonna run into priests who are not what I call ethical at all. And so they're everywhere, and it's completely political. And it's something that you have to live with when you get into this religion. And that's my experience, and I've experienced it on more than one occasion and more than one church. So the people. As being an African-American person and being in a church, I feel like there's 10,000 more eyes watching me than anybody else. So if I make a mistake, if I step sideways, or if I look like a certain way, they're watching all the time. And so that is something that you have to be mindful of, because I've gone to like different churches. I walk in and people just walk directly over to me and like shake my hand. Why? They're not doing it to other people. They're scouting me out. I know exactly what that is. And it's not for them being nice and welcoming, because they never say welcome. They just shake my hand. And it's like, who the heck are you? And I'm just trying to come and enjoy church. And so, that's been very off-putting. And, I've got those people like, oh, what do you do for a living? That's like the new form of racism around here in California. So it's definitely a off-putting, very, very off-putting that I have to live with that. And then also the old timers. Oh, the old timers are people. They think that they run the church, they own the church because they put something in the church. Like, oh, those flowers over there, I put those up there mine. So I did the altar society. So that's all this set up is mine. So I have like this stake in this church that is better than you, and I don't think that anybody should be better than anybody else. I think that we should all go to church. They all have problems in their life, and they're all there to have their time with God, Jesus Christ, receive the Holy Communion, or whatever they're there for. And it doesn't mean that this person or this person should dictate how you should feel and how you should act and how you should be. So those are like the four main things that I have had a difficult time dealing with, and I think that people should really understand and know about the religion is that these things can happen, and they do happen all the time. So again, the history is not good when it comes to African American people, and you have to be okay with that if you convert. And again, the politics are extremely a lot, and it shouldn't be that way. It should just be very simple, straight to the point. And the priest can be corrupt just as normal people, and they're supposed to be, blessing your Holy Communion and giving it to you, and they're doing all these wrong things. And you have different priests that don't like deacons, and then deacons know that they don't like the deacons, so they don't even go near the church. So they just let them run rampant and do whatever they want. Some of them are political. Some of them talk about you should be a Democrat. Some of them talk about you should be a Republican. Everything's supposed to be neutral, and we all should be doing the same thing. I don't understand that. And then the people, again, I am not there for them. I am there for myself. And so that is something that if you are going to convert, you have to be okay with, is that you're going to run into people who are going to definitely test you on your faith, because your faith is definitely something that you hold within inside you, but there are people that can turn you away. So just be aware and be mindful that there are not the greatest people sitting in church, and sometimes not the greatest person is actually the priest, and yet they have that position and they might have held it for a long time. But being African American and converting, you can run into some issues down the road. But if you like your religion, it might not be for everybody, and if it's something that you like, this is my experiences, and I still experience them to this day. Really think about if you're going to convert or not, and really think about if it's something that you want to do, because it does come with more problems than I feel other races necessarily have to endure. And that's my experience, is that I felt like converting to Catholicism was a lot harder for me than it was for other people that I know that converted as well. It's the hoops and the bounds that I had to go through was not necessarily the same as everybody else, and not everybody is treated the same. So just be aware that this can happen, and if you're converting, it's something that you really need to be okay with, and that is the history. The history is something that you have to be okay with, and the things that they did was not okay, and yet they sweep it up under the rug like it really never happened. Like, oh, we invite everybody in, but that's not the case back in the day. And it was corruption, and it was political, and it's just nasty. So you have to be okay with that to convert to this religion. So thank you for watching this video. It may be controversial to some people, but it's my own experience, and I learn from it and I grow from it every single day. So really think about what you want, if that's what you want to convert. These are my experiences. I'm not here to turn people away, but I definitely want to inform people about the decisions that other people make in the church that affect you, and the decisions that the church has made in the past that you have to be okay with. Please like and share this video. If you have any questions you want to ask me or anything you want to know, leave a comment, and I'll see if I can answer them in the next video. Thank you.